Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Saturday evening to you all. I hope everyone is doing well out there tonight and had yourselves a fantastic Saturday. And I certainly hope everybody's been having a great weekend out there so far. I got you a good one tonight. The first thing we are going to discuss is this winter storm threat out ahead of us. Now, I don't think that a lot of areas are going to see any significant snow. I think you got to get into sections of the interior northeast region to really see any kind of significant wet snow. And I really think this is going to be just a nasty, heavy, wet snow for a lot of these areas that we're going to speak on. Folks along the I-95 corridor from like DC to Philadelphia, New York City up to Boston, not going to really see any snow. I think Boston will see some light accumulations, but we'll talk about who's going to see the meat of this storm as far as winter weather. We'll get detail with you folks, show you some really cool graphics from our friends at the National Weather Service so you guys can get an idea of how much snow you could potentially see from this from your neck of the woods if you are tuning in from the Northeast. Then we're going to switch gears, talk about a clipper that's going to dive down to the Great Lakes region, all the way down the spine of the Appalachian Mountains, about early to midway next week. Could deliver a little snow for the higher elevations, rain for the lower elevations, but just not a lot of cold air in this pattern. And then we're going to discuss what I think a lot of people want to hear about, and that is a pretty big signal for some sort of winter weather in the eastern U.S. sometime like next weekend into early, maybe the week after. We're still trying to tweak that time frame, and we'll talk about that in this video. But listen, the signal was there for something, and it continues to just get stronger and stronger and stronger. These videos leading up to a storm signal, especially this far out, it's important that you guys don't, you're going to do what you want to do, and I completely get it. I know some people just want to see, the pretty blues on their area or the pinks on their area, and then they're going to head on out. But it's important to really listen and try to understand what's driving this setup and why it could change and why there's such a solid signal. What's driving these, atmospheric factors that's leading to this potential storm risk. And we're going to have timestamps up. You skip ahead to what you want to listen to, but we're going to continue to break this down in this way that we're going to do tonight, and like we've done over the last couple of nights, until we can really get this into a forecast period, which won't be until we get to later next week. But man, there's some solid signals for something. And some of this information I'm going to show you folks is going to make a lot of people happy if you're a winter weather fan. So hunker down, sit tight for a bit, and let's figure this one out. So if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it, and if you folks got anything that I can pray about or pray over, as always, please put those in the comments below. If you hear any loud screams in the background, my kids are a little bit of, maybe just stuck in the house all day. It's been raining here all day, and we've been painting, so they definitely got some cabin fever, so they're having some outbursts on the other side of the room. So let's get rocking and rolling. So we got a lot of rain ongoing out there in the eastern U.S. This is a pretty powerful system. In fact, here in my neck of the woods, here in Lexington, Columbia, South Carolina, here in central South Carolina, we had a severe thunderstorm warning went over pretty much my house, and I only had to drive about 500 feet and saw some really cool cloud structure. I saw some lowering. Almost looked like a funnel cloud. I don't think that's what it was. There was a lot of cloud movement. Really cool stuff out there, and luckily no confirmed tornadoes or anything like that. But there's definitely been some severe thunderstorms out there. We had a tornado watch earlier that's since expired in areas of like the panhandle of Florida, South Georgia. But there's still some storms out there. There's some heavy rain falling in areas of the Ohio Valley, sections of the Midwest, and then we got moisture beginning to enter the Northeast, but really more so just in the Mid-Atlantic right now. We got still some severe thunderstorm warnings out there in the Carolinas as of right now, the time I'm doing this video. But yeah, this is the system that's going to move into the Northeast, bring some snow for certain areas. Central U.S., pretty quiet. Western U.S., we got just a typical kind of a Pacific storm moving into the Pacific Northwest, Northern California, that's delivering some rain for lower elevation and even rain in some higher elevations. This is a very warm storm signal. We talked about this last night. Not going to speak on it in this evening's video. Let's continue to move forward here. Watches, warnings, advisories. We got dense fog advisories that continue for the sections of the Midwest. And then you still look at all these flood watches up. I think these will expire as we move into the overnight hours, but we do have flood watches up for this rain that is falling across Virginia, West Virginia, and surrounding states out there this evening. We do have some winter storm warnings up for the higher elevations of North Carolina and Tennessee, especially the Smokies, which will get several inches of snow. We'll have a separate segment for that we'll have up for you folks that live in those higher elevations up in the mountains of the Southern Alps region. We got some winter weather advisories up, some winter storm warnings sprinkled up here in the Northeast, and we still got winter storm watches up where they just are not confident enough to where they want to make it into an advisory or a winter storm warning. And this is really just favoring those higher elevations. I mean, a few hundred feet will make a difference in this setup, and we'll talk about that here in a second. And here's your second. So here's the system moving in. Let's start it off this evening. You see the rain moving in, and that's exactly what it looks like on radar. Starting to move into Pennsylvania and surrounding states, and we'll continue to move this forward. We'll get this, and we're going to look at the European model. I can look at every single model, and it's going to look about the same. But we're going to just stick with the European model. We'll take it all the way out to Sunday morning, tomorrow morning. We're starting to get some mixing going on here, starting to switch to some heavy wet snow and favored areas. And when I say favored areas, I mean those areas that are just a little bit higher up. You might live in some hill country in Pennsylvania. I know you got the Allegheny Mountains sort of in southern and southwest Pennsylvania, but in these hills right here just in Pennsylvania could be just high enough to see some heavy wet snow. You continue to move this forward, and then as we get to about midday Sunday, here's that heavy snow breaking out across northern PA, the southern tier of New York. The Poconos, the Catskills, it will snow in the valleys of I think of New York State, but not near as much snow. You guys will struggle to stay all snow, I think. It could be one of those events where you might switch back and forth from heavy snow back to rain, heavy snow. Sort of those, we call it white rain when the raindrops look like rain still, but they're kind of going down much slower than a normal raindrop. If you haven't experienced that, then you probably are like, Mitch, I have no idea what you're talking about. If you ever seen an event where it goes from rain to snow, then of course you know what I'm talking about. You're getting into Sunday afternoon, and I still think it's raining in Boston. It's definitely raining in New York City, Long Island, even the southern sections of Connecticut and Rhode Island. Begins to snow in these higher elevations of Vermont and New Hampshire, and this storm kicks up. We could get a period of some pretty heavy snow here in the Catskills of New York State. Snow starts to get all the way up to the Canadian-U.S. line. And then by the time we get to the middle of the night tomorrow night, I think you could begin to switch to some snow in Boston, right up against the coastline. Snowing pretty good in Vermont, New Hampshire. Snow starts to make it into southern sections of Maine. You could get some snow thrown back into Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, the down east areas of Maine. And could end is some, a burst of snow in Boston sometime Monday afternoon, Monday evening. And then this thing heads on out. Okay? So really the timeline of this is tomorrow morning through, as far out as maybe like Monday evening. Snowfall between now and the duration of the event. A broad look at this, just like we always do. Here it is, just a few inches of wet snow in the southern tier Finger Lakes region of New York State. Northern PA, a few inches of snow. And there it is, like the Catskills, several inches of wet snow. Poconos could get, a little bit of snow from this, not a whole lot. The Berkshires could get several inches of wet snow. And then you get into the southern sections of Vermont and New Hampshire, several inches of snow. And Boston, barely even calling for an inch right now. And then the coastal regions of Maine could get a few inches of wet snow. Now let's go on and kind of zoom in. Man, it always does this when I show the National Weather Service out of State College. It kind of zooms back out the image for me. We'll take a look at a couple graphics to help you folks out. Hopefully it shows wherever you're tuning in from. But, when you get down here to this section of Pennsylvania, this is it's too warm. Harrisburg ain't getting nothing. State College probably ain't going to get no accumulations. You get up here into like Wellsboro, 2 to 3 inches, Bradford, 2 to 3 inches, you can get a little bit of accumulation. This is not going to be a big event at all. Definitely a wet snow. Buffalo could get sneaky in about 1 to 2 inches of snow. Warsaw, 3 to 4 inches. Danville, 1 to 2 inches. So we'll see what happens in this area. And then we get to the Binghamton region and surrounding towns and communities. Syracuse, 1 to 2 inches, an inch or less in Binghamton. Scranton, inch or less. You start to get, a little bit further east into the higher elevations of New York. Snowfall chances begin to increase. Cooperstown, 3 to 4 inches. So you continue to move eastward, get into Albany region and surrounding areas. Now, this is when we can start to see a good bit of snow. Albany just going for 2 to 3 inches of snow. Albany sits a little bit lower in elevation, kind of surrounded by higher elevated regions. Hunter, 8 to 12. Westerlo, 6 to 8 inches of snow. And then, Pittsfield and Western Mass, 3 to 4 inches of snow. Torrington, 3 to 4 inches of snow here in northwest Connecticut. And then, just find your area on the map. Hopefully it shows it. And then we go basically show all of southern New England. Boston, 1 to 2 inches of snow. I mean, I could see Boston not getting anything. So don't get your hopes up with this storm in Boston whatsoever. I read a comment yesterday saying somebody said that they were calling for 8 to 12 inches in snow in Boston. I haven't seen anybody say that. I haven't seen one model show that. So I don't know where. And it's not a knock on anybody, folks. I just don't know where some people get some of these information from. Sometimes when I'm reading the comments, I'm just like, yo, did you just like put words in my mouth or something? It's wild, but it's just, it comes with the territory of doing this. Fitchburg, 6 to 8 inches of snow. Worcester, folks. Everybody, even you folks in Massachusetts, have a different way of saying this. It's funny if I said it enough. Everybody in this area, please put your way of pronouncing this in the comments in this video. And then I want, not just me, I want everybody else to kind of read over it too and watch how different it is, even from a local standpoint. So anyways, I'm jacked up on a little bit of energy. I'm drinking an energy drink, so if I'm just yapping my jaw, you know how I do, guys. But 2 to 3 inches of snow in Springfield, Plymouth, 1 to 2 inches of snow. Not a big event. It really isn't. This will be some heavy, wet snow up here. It'll just look like slush. National Weather Service up here in Vermont, Brattleboro, about 4 inches. Springfield, 5 inches. Manchester, 3 inches. Stowe, 1.5 inches. Montpelier, 1.5 inches, if that's how you pronounce it. So not a big event. Not a big event at all. Then we go up here, our friends here in New Hampshire and sections of Maine. 2 to 3 inches of snow in Augusta. Portland, good 4 to 6 inch snow events. Sanford, 6 to 8 inches of snow. Manchester, Concord, 4 to 6 inches of snow. So, someone could sneak in a half a foot of heavy, wet snow. So that's the event for the Northeast, but I want to show you what will happen tonight. I mean, this will be going on by the time we wake up tomorrow morning. Backside energy, like it typically does with these systems, waking up Sunday morning, tomorrow morning, could have a little bit of a wintry mix going on in Kentucky. The Cumberland Plateau here in Tennessee, a little bit of snow could be falling. And not to ignore you folks up here in Indiana, you guys could get a little bit of wet snow. That has not changed from what we discussed in this morning's video. A little bit of wet snow into the wee hours of the morning. Tomorrow morning, after midnight tonight. It's very possible. Somebody could get a sneaky, wet inch of snow. We start to get into tomorrow about midday. If you're vacationing in the mountains and staying through Sunday, you live way up in those higher elevated regions. Certainly, I mean, they've dropped winter storm warnings for this. But you could get a wintry mix here in the northern section of the Cumberland Plateau in Tennessee. A little bit of a wintry mix is possible in eastern Kentucky, certainly southwest Virginia, and definitely the higher elevations of West Virginia. But, you get about 3,500, 4,000 feet up in the higher elevations of Tennessee, North Carolina. It's going to be a pretty decent winter storm up here. Nothing too crazy. But, by the time we're getting into tomorrow afternoon, could be snowing. Some snow could ooze into, the Maggie Valley region also. Could get some flakes that get down to Asheville, very possible. But just, moderate to heavy snow flying around the high country here in the southern Alps, for sure. Snow flying around in southwest Virginia. And this will continue. All the way until about probably Monday morning. You still got some energy flying down. So, you look at how much snow is going to fall. Of course, it's just for the higher elevated regions of the southern Alps. But I think someone could sneak in a foot of snow. Mount LeConte, Klingman's Dome, I definitely think someone could get a very wet, heavy, 8 to 12 inches of snow. Rome Mountain could get a few inches of snow. So definitely areas right in here that could get substantial snow. Honestly, I know areas east of the Appalachian Mountains have not gotten a big snow event. But the higher elevations have had a decent winter. They really have. So the first thing we're going to talk about is this little clipper. We're not going to spend long on it, but this is after the system we just broke down pulls out. So this is Tuesday morning, January 30th. We'll have some northern stream energy, just northern stream dominated energy, flies down. Very weird trough over here, ridge, real tall ridge building all the way up into central Canada. So this slides down the eastern side of the ridge. This energy right in here brings its own cold air. Getting to Tuesday, Tuesday afternoon, you got some rain, snow mix maybe going on somewhere in the Great Lakes region. This flies down. It is too warm, even in Ohio, getting into next Tuesday night, Wednesday morning. And then look at this precipitation that flies all the way down to the Appalachian Mountains. But it is too warm anywhere outside the higher elevated regions. Way too warm. So, this could deliver a little bit more snow on top of the snow that falls like 24 to 48 hours like earlier. Midway next week. This is Wednesday morning, the last day of January. And man, this is a very close storm, folks. As this low tries to start wrapping up, I would not be surprised we try to mix some snowflakes here in eastern North Carolina. If we just had a colder pattern in place at this time, midway next week, I mean, this could do something. Tries to develop a low right here, 540 line right there. Could do something weird. It could. And then that heads on out. Could have some, we're definitely probably going to have some more energy at the end of this coming week. As a low really kind of gets anchored in up here and kind of throws energy around it. What about the GFS with that system? Here it comes. GFS kind of loses it. It really does. In fact, no, it doesn't. I'm sorry. I was just ahead a couple frames. Here it is. Here's that system, the Clipper. Shows a little bit more cold air with it. We're getting into Tuesday afternoon. This shows snow in Ohio. So we'll see what happens. We get into the middle of the night, Tuesday night and Wednesday morning. Look at the snow flying around the Appalachian Mountains. Rain in the lower elevations, though. This kind of flies in. There it goes. Tries to develop it, but there's just no cold air. None. So that's our little Clipper. What's the signal from this? I'll pull up. Let's pull up the GFS. No, we're going to have to look at this. I'm going to do this on the fly, so y'all bear with me a little bit. This is the GFS ensemble, and there's a little bit of the signal right here. This is in 24-hour, increments here. And, it shows the most snow kind of like in the higher elevations of Virginia and West Virginia. That's this little Clipper dives down. Not much of a signal once it gets east of the Appalachian Mountains. So I don't think this is going to be a big deal. So let's go on and switch gears to what I think could be a big deal. Now, this is the part of the video where I'm probably going to lose some people, and I get it, but I feel the need to do this because I think it's important to explain what's going on. What I do here, I try not to be that person that just jumps on here, shows the models to you folks, and then heads on out. I like to explain it. If you've been tuning in for a while, you know that already. It goes without saying, but I like to always say that again for any new people who are tuning in. So what you're looking at here, think of those red colors, the orange colors you see on your screen, high pressure, a ridge. The blue colors, the cooler colors on your screen you're seeing, think of that as low pressure. It is low pressure. Don't think of it. It is low pressure, which, is a trough of low pressure, a storm system, and typically associated with cooler air. Okay, so we start this off, and the first thing you notice is you got the big blob of red right up into Canada, right over almost the entire country, pretty much, the lower 48. So this is a ridge built all the way up into Canada. What I want you to look at is this little indentation right into here. That's our northern stream energy that we just talked about a couple minutes ago. That is kind of a little indentation in the pattern right here. So you got this trough out west, then you got the ridge right in here, and then you got the trough, which is that storm system that's creating lower pressure off the east coast, off the eastern U.S. That is heading on out. This is going to try to swing up like this. But that is a great example. This little thing right here, that is a good example of our Clipper that we just talked about. Now I'm going to put this all in motion. Okay, I just want to kind of circle what's going on in here. And here it comes. You see that little dip right here? That is our energy. This dives down, and then it's indicated by lower pressure, which is in the form of rain, moisture, snow, whatever's falling. And there it is. There's our northern stream energy. It dives down on the eastern side of this ridge. And that's what we got going on. So, this does what it does. It tries to develop a low off the coast of the Carolinas sometime midway next week. Then we got additional energy right here. Here's another little area of energy. At the same time, the ridge looks like it's kind of shifting a little bit further west. Okay? And to keep this going, and one thing I want you to notice is all of a sudden, you got a lot of blue showing up over the western U.S. Think of that as energy, a storm system. Okay, at the same time, this blue isn't going anywhere. So you still got this dip in the trough right into here, we got lower pressure. We'll just put an L for lower pressure. We got a ridge way up here, and then we got a trough coming up here. And if you look at the blue down here starting to show up, that is indicating pressure that is getting lower down here in the southern stream, which is telling us what's most likely about to happen is that we're about to get the southern stream pretty active, which once we get that southern stream active, we start to get moisture. What about the cold air, though? All right, but let's keep this moving. Here it is. So this screams to me that it's going to get very active at the tail end of next work week in the western U.S. We're probably going to have a couple storm systems. The snow levels are going to drop, and it's going to get active for everybody. I mean, from California, throughout the Rockies, the Pacific Northwest, everybody. I think it's going to get active. So one thing you notice here, you got this ridge, and then we got something called a 50-50 low developing right in here. And at the same time, you got lower pressure showing up down here. So let's just go all the way out until about Saturday midday. Saturday midday, about February the 3rd. All right. We already have a lot of energy flying into the Pacific. Out of the Pacific. We call this Pacific energy. It's coming down. All right. We got this ridge up here, and then it just dramatically goes down like that and like that. So that is our 50-50 low, which is going to move around. We don't know if it's going to be exactly right there. All right. Let's go on and get this back off the screen and do that. That's our 50-50 low. So the flow around high pressure, so this high pressure right here is always going to go like this. That's how the flow around high pressure is going to be, which is going to be your warmer colors on your screen. All right. The flow around low pressure, all right, is going to go like that. Okay. And we talk about this a lot in the tropics and what steers these systems. And in the northern hemisphere with, a tropical system, it turns like that. Southern hemisphere, it's different. Okay. And that's a big factor when we're even talking about winter weather, folks. It really is. So let's get this back off your screen. Okay. So what you got going on is you got this ridge right here. And then you got the flow coming down like this because, like I just said, you got the flow that goes around high pressure in that way. And then at the same time, you got the flow that's going like this, like that way. So what is this doing? There's cold air up here. Let's do a check mark. So cold air is kind of basically the current around the low pressure and the high pressure is kind of working in tandem to bring cold air down here. Now let's get a little bit of this off your screen and let's draw it again so it's not as messy. So what is this doing? This is bringing cold air, basically wedging between the east side of this high pressure and the west side of this low, and this is slinging cold air down into here. Okay, so you say, all right, well, what is this cold air feeding? It's feeding this lower pressure down here, which is storm systems. And this low pressure is going down here. You probably got a low right here. Eventually, maybe you can get a low right here. And that's exactly what I'm about to show you. So we get all this back off your screen. And folks, I'm probably going to be messy explaining this some videos it might click with people, some people it don't, but I'm always learning. I'm always trying to get better with explaining this, and always ask questions if you have. But you keep this going, and there it is. That is the system we watch. You see how you got the blues, but then you have, I don't even know what color you would call this, almost a purplish, kind of yellowish right here. That indicates even lower pressure. And here it goes. This is our system to watch. So this is moving on, and it's right there. There's a strong signal, and you're asking, what is the time frame for this? I would say it's the later half of next weekend into Monday morning. Not Monday morning. Let's not be that specific. Next Monday or Tuesday, like February 4th, 5th, and 6th. I would say the 4th through the 6th is really the big time frame of interest for the southeast and eastern U.S. So at this point, let's back it up to about the evening of the 4th. We got a low pressure probably bringing precipitation in, and we got cold air because of this, what we call a 50-50 low. This is associated with a low that's kind of locked in typically in this area of the country, typically Atlantic Canada, the Northeast somewhere. So this is helping to basically this high pressure and this low pressure is helping to feed cold air into this lower pressure, which is going to be precipitation in some way. Now, is it going to be suppressed? Is the cold air push going to be so strong that it suppresses like a low way down here and we don't get precipitation thrown into this cold air? There's a lot of possibilities. I'm going to show you all of them for you. Okay, so spent a long time on that. I know some people's like, geez, you spent way too long on that, but I think it's important. Another way to look at this, and we won't spend as long on this, is vortices. And this actually shows you the energy on the map. You can see it on what I just showed you with the heights and the low pressure and the high pressure, but it really shows it really well here. There's that clipper that dies down. You can see the energy kind of in the the blues and the orange and yellows right here. That clipper dies down, tries to do something off the coast, and you can see it really well here. Okay, you see this blue line? That's that tall ridge building. There's that Pacific energy right here, Pacific energy right here, and then it moves into the lower 48. It undercuts that ridge, and this is the southern stream getting very active. There's our 50-50 low with energy just kind of going around it like that, okay? And then this is our big energy that we watch. It's going to come down. Now, this low is feeding us cold air into this, okay? So you kind of keep this going, and there it is. There's that big area of energy that swings into the southern tier of the U.S., the southeast, and then what kind of cold air feed are we getting into this? I think we're getting enough cold air for a lot of people. So what a lot of people want to see, here we are. This is the European. What does it look like as far as rain and snow on the map? Okay, and it's going to match up with exactly what we just explained. There's the clipper heading on off. That's done. And we're going to take a broad look at this because I don't want to leave my friends out here in the western U.S. hanging with this. And then look, the Pacific energy moves in the form of 1, 2, maybe 3 storms. We're not sure at this point. But I think it could be just one substantial storm. And we're getting into like Friday morning, a lot of higher elevation snow, lower elevation rain. California, everybody can get rain from this. This continues at the same time. You got lower pressure right here. And you can see it with a lot of energy riding around this low in the form of just scattered light precipitation, whether it's snow or rain, who knows. But this is swinging around. Now, when this low drops down and becomes our cold air source, this could develop some sort of system out ahead of this main one. It really could. But, this is probably going to bring some sort of storm system over the central U.S. Is it going to be snow for some people, rain for some people? Not sure. But there it is. You see that 550 line diving down here? That's our cold air source diving down into this precipitation. Let's go on and just get a little bit closer look at this. And I knew it was going to jump to 18Z. We're going to have to march this out. And here it comes right here. There's all the precipitation associated with our lower pressure up here. And then here comes the big storm that everybody's watching, that you hear me and everybody talking about on social media. If you follow the weather, look that closely like I do. But there's that 540 line. When you see that and the bluer lines kind of tucked in together, there's some cold air nearby. 540 line does not indicate freezing at the surface. It's freezing aloft, higher up. We'll worry about that when we need to. And then here it comes. It could be 2 different lows. Here's. We'll just focus on this low. It's a pretty robust low already coming off the coast of East Florida, like right near Jacksonville. Look at this snow falling. Not a forecast. Going to say that a ton over the next week. Snow falling in Arkansas, snow falling in Mississippi. What is it going to do for the Carolinas? It is close. You got a 978 millibar low next Sunday, about 8 days from now, off the coast of South Carolina. And it is, if you're wondering, well, it doesn't look like it's going to snow. Well, first off, I want to tell you, this is rain falling in like the mid-30s in Augusta to like Columbia. You are right on the fringe of something even in those areas. But you go another one, and there it is, a 969 millibar low pressure dumping very heavy wet snow. And it doesn't show it here, but it's even cold enough for snow on this run almost all the way down to Myrtle Beach. But this is heavy wet snow falling in eastern North Carolina, Norfolk. Now, I know it's not that crazy run from overnight, but let's not focus on operational runs. And I'm just showing them to you just because we want to match up what we just discussed with what it looks like on here. And there it is. There's that huge Pacific storm, moves across the country, the southern tier, and there it is. And what does it do eventually? We're not sure. There's the cold air kind of tucking in. There's like more energy diving down. And man, this turns into a massive storm for the Northeast. Now, I know my folks in the Northeast are thinking, man, this looks like a brain bomb. Man, don't focus so much on that yet. Don't focus so much on that. What about the GFS? Same thing. We're getting into Friday morning, next Friday morning, February 2nd. A lot of energy out west. And I think that this is going to be a bigger system for the southern sections of the Rockies, like down here in California, the Southwest, than it is maybe the northern areas. I think it dives down here. And then here it comes. GFS is a bigger system. Saturday afternoon. First off, I want you to look at this cold air push diving down. Substantial cold air push, even stronger than the European. Look how grouped up these blue lines are. This is indicating a lot of cold air. And this is coming. You're thinking, man, this is about to be a monster winter storm. It's all rain over here in the central U.S. You're just warmer with this setup. All right, and let's go on and just switch it to the eastern U.S. And here it comes. You're thinking, man, this is about to be big, but it's suppressed. And you're thinking, Mitch, what does suppressed mean? That means that the low is actually being pushed. It's being forced further south because of the higher pressure up here. Cold high. And just the push of cold air diving down from this. So in this case, and also you got to think, you get some sort of phasing together with these systems, some kind of, because this is in southern stream energy. You get phasing together with northern stream energy, this is going to try to pull northward. Stronger system, remember, always tries to go further north. So it's not so much the cold air pushing this. It's just the fact that this is a weaker storm and goes more so west to east. But look, it's cold enough in South Carolina for winter weather. I was joking on a weather forum earlier. It looks like a sleet storm, in Orangeburg. Not a forecast, like next Monday morning. Which, by the way, my daughter's birthday is February 5th. So this is right at the time frame and interest. Man, that would be epic if there was a winter storm in my neck of the woods on my daughter's birthday. Man, that would be special right there. But anyways, getting off track. But check out the winter weather down here in southern South Carolina. It really tells you that, hey, it's not showing some massive storm, but the energy's there and the cold air's there. Now, how are they going to meet? Not sure. So let's look at what a lot of people probably are interested in seeing. Let's look at the European ensemble here. This is the signal for snow. This is in 24-hour windows. So big signal for heavy, rocky snow. Sierra Nevada, snow out here. This could become a winter storm for Denver. It really could. And then look how it begins to show up right here, the signal for snow. And then there it is for the southeast. There's that signal right in here. All right, we're going to zoom into this. Just hang tight with me. Same thing with the GFS ensemble. This is hot off the press. Just got going. There it is. The southern Rockies, central Rockies, a lot of snow. Could become a big system for like Denver. Could get some snow in the middle of the country. It's very possible. But there is that signal. Folks, this is a pretty solid signal this far out. 7 to 8 days out. That's a pretty solid signal. And for them to agree with one another like that, that's even more impressive. So there's a signal right here. I'm thinking, Mitch, I can barely see this. But let's go on and get a little closer for my folks here in the south, southeast, and mid-Atlantic. And here it is. This is, remember, in 24-hour waves. And let's just go on and move this one to 48 hours. So here it comes. There's that signal right there. You got a snowfall mean all the way down to Columbia and Augusta. I'm not saying it's going to snow in Columbia and Augusta and Atlanta. Just saying. But that's a solid signal from North Carolina and Virginia. A 1 to 2 inch snowfall mean this far out is pretty solid. What about the GFS ensemble? The JFS ensemble, basically. Here it comes. And there it is. It's even more significant further into South Carolina. So, even me, you guys know, when you tuned in, for you folks that's been watching since January 2022, when I was able to reel in a winter storm here in my neck of the woods. Well, I wouldn't say I would, but, it happened. It was one of the most exciting weeks leading up to it of talking weather. So, even me, I'm being very positive. But for my folks from like Atlanta, Columbia, I would keep your hopes low, not in a negative way. But I don't know if this is our system. But I hope it is. Remember, I keep telling you folks, I like mid to late February. I love that time frame. But now this storm is going to hog up the attention of really talking about that. But this is the signal off the GFS ensemble. This is a pretty decent signal. I like the mid-Atlantic for this storm. Virginia, North Carolina. I think the only thing that would make it not work out for you, I don't think this is a system for the Northeast. It could be. You saw what the Euro did. It brought it all the way up. If it phases with any northern stream energy, it could be. It really will. It very well could be. But it could be kind of one of these systems where maybe it's suppressed enough to where maybe I-20 just gets it. Let's hope so. No offense to anybody else, but we don't ever get anything down here. But let's not get into who gets what. That's all I got, guys. I'm going to tell you, this is going to be a heavy topic over the next week, unless the signal just disappears, and it very well could. But man, I just don't think it will. I don't think it is. So we got a lot to figure out with this, folks. It's going to be very active. And I got some active times in my personal life coming up. About to be coaching soccer again here in the next 10 days or so. So yeah, it's going to be crazy. It's definitely going to be crazy for sure. So that's all I got, guys. Thank y'all for tuning in. Thank you for taking time out your evening. God bless all y'all. And I'll talk to you again tomorrow morning.